brother like texted me when the Chris Rock thing.
Yeah.
He texted me. He's like, "Yo, if that ever happens to you, I'm going to jail." And I'm like, "You know, I'm going to jail for fighting Will Smith."
Yeah.
And then one time I did get a phone call from Kanye West, and he this is real. He came to my house in South Carolina and wanted me to play him in a movie.
What?
I can truly say I'm a fan of everyone here, which is a thing. I thought about it for a couple of minutes. I was like, let me make sure before I say it.
Hi, and welcome to the Hollywood Reporter Roundtable series. I'm your host, Lacey Rose. I'm excited to have you all here. I'm going to start with a question for all of you. Jake, I think I'm going to quote you here. I love when somebody does something and it feels so great, you go, God damn it. So I think for all of you, who or what was the last thing that made you say, God damn it?
I'll take that question first, and that's every single guy. They're currently doing what they've done in the past.
I like Jerrod's special. I thought, goddamn, that was pretty cool, man.
I'm glad I inspired a goddamn it.
I like it. It's like I don't do stand-up, but I'm actually jealous.
Oh, you could do it. You could do it.
You're jealous that he got to sit down. While
Yes. I like the back and forth with the crowd. I was like, I like this.
The new season of 90 Day Fiancé makes me feel that way. You know, like I really, I think I should have approached my marriage a little differently. You know,
I actually hate feeling jealous.
You hate those guys.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. It stinks.
Oh.
You don't like feeling.
You guys really enjoy being.
I like feeling jealous because I get fired up, and if I don't get fired up, I get bored. Oh. So when I see things that I think are great, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to keep doing this.
I like to watch things that suck because it makes me. I feel like I still have a place. Personally.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I told Will this earlier, but I hadn't seen the season of MacGruber when he was hosting SNL. But I finally did afterwards. And it's just so, primally funny. It's just so fucking good. Anyway. And he's naked in a lot of it, and so it's, vulnerable and so, just so great. I don't know. It just made me, I missed that kind of comedy, that kind of action comedy. Especially.
Thank you.
I told Chris right while I was at SNL. Chris has been making me laugh a lot. In his show, The Bust Down, it's just so absurd and really, really funny. They give him really, really good storylines of just him slowly realizing that he'd been molested as a child, or him dating a homeless woman, really absurd, funny, and Chris carries it really well. So that's probably that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that was funny.
I love it. Well, Jake brought up your special. And I guess my question is, what sort of changed in your life that made you willing or even eager to sort of share your secrets now?
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of I'd gone through a lot of personal things in the past couple years, and my stand-up was never really about me. It was kind of about everything else, and I just couldn't think of anything else to talk about other than me and what I was going through, and I think stand-up has space for working out personal things, and to me, the high wire act are that all of these things are of personal consequence to me. Mm-hmm. Everything that I'm saying. So it keeps it. The passion is true. I get the urgency is there because of that. So that's really what it was like as far as making something out of it. It's just I wanted to do something that had urgency.
And I guess at the other end, do you feel free? And is that
do
feeling
I feel free?
I mean,
do I feel free is a daily question. That's you got to check on me tomorrow.
How are we today?
I feel good. I feel
good.
really good. No, I definitely freer. I definitely was hiding a very a part of myself, and in part felt like I was hiding all of myself. So yeah, I feel a lot freer and more. it's more space to make stuff and not, you know.
Yeah. Is it how you expected to feel? Did it land in the way you intended to land? And then I'm going to open it up to everyone.
I'll give the shortest answer I can to that. I mean, it's a personal thing that I made that, I'm still working through a lot of it in my actual life, right? So it's probably the best work of my life, and also was probably the saddest I've ever been. So I kind of appreciate the balance. I actually feel more adult and sturdy because of that somehow. Like, just like, oh yeah, I'm happy and it's all whatever, and it's like good. It evens out. What I want from it, I'm still trying to figure out. I mean, like, like I'm here. It's kind of an odd thing to give, like even to do press and to do things around. I promised my friend I'd stop being like sad on like press tours. I just been like a sad boy, just like my mom will fucking call, like just like whatever. And it's an odd thing to kind of parade and then be like, and give me a goddamn Emmy for it. Like it's an odd thing. But I feel okay with the reaction.
That was your shortest answer possible.
That was the most concise. That was the most concise and least aggressive.
For the rest of you, like, how good are you at gauging how the things that you do are going to land?
I feel like we get to do that every week, Michael and I.
Have you gotten better at it?
No, but I think it's just, I think you just learn what your hit rate is based on like the numbers game of it all. You're like, oh, like this season, maybe like a third of my sketches have like really like killed it or something. I'm just making up numbers and figures, but
yeah, I think live kind of makes it a different type of thing because we find out at the same time as the audience, and it's also the same with stand-up. You kind of find out in real time, but if you ever put a project out that you're waiting for, you almost forget that you did it sometimes. Or you know what I mean? Like when you're promoted, it almost feels like you're not even thinking about it. You kind of think about the next thing. But doing live TV all the time, it's like we find out and then it's on to the next thing, like an athlete kind of.
Are you any better? I mean, having done it for as long as you've done it, are you any better at gauging when something is going to hit?
No, I take the Groundhog Day theory of you got to do it over and over and over again until you get it right. Just do it with different people, And it's like SNL, we do run through dress rehearsal, and then by air, hopefully we think we have a semblance of how something's going to play. And in stand up, you're touring for a year or 2 or 3 before you figure out if a joke is going to work or something. So it ends up just doing it over and over again. And then somebody's like, boy, that's really good. Did you come up with it? And I'm like, yeah, 2 years ago.
I was very excited at the time.
Yeah. That's how it works.
I'm wrong all the time. But you just like develop this willingness that you just realize you're wrong and people hate whatever you do. And then you go, oh, I get to do something else. Then somebody else lets you, and you just keep trying. I don't know. You got to be willing to be wrong. I think to do stuff that it makes the things that do connect even better because people don't expect it because you're wrong all the time. Speaking from myself.
But the MacGruber journey is in itself a sort of version of that, right? Because I don't know what you sort of anticipated the film version to be and how that would land. Maybe I'll stop and ask what you sort of anticipated there.
Well, I mean, we were all very excited going into the movie. We were excited by how it turned out, and they kind of let us take the reins on this thing. And Lauren was awesome. He just, surrounded us and protected us. And it was tough to see the movie bomb financially because that's just all you have to go with. You don't get to, you don't have a way to gauge it other than that. But we were very proud of it. It was a good lesson in like, if you do something that you like yourself, you can't control how, how it does, but you can control how you feel about it. And so it's way easier to accept something failing if you are proud of it and like it. And so this was the most exciting thing to get to do a TV version of it because we're like, and again, I don't think anybody really saw the TV show, so it's, it's kind of this thing. I didn't realize
the movie failed because all my friends love it. Like it's one of those things that you don't realize. Like you saying that now is like a shock to me. Like because it only lives. amongst my
that's
friends is like
awesome
one of
to
the
hear.
funniest movies ever. And
Well, it's achieved cult
man.
status in the years since.
But even that kind of thing, you can't gauge because you just don't. So this getting them to let us do the show was so exciting for us because like that was the first tangible thing of like, okay, this thing we should be. I don't know.
It's like if you build houses and you build like houses to like exact specifications, it's like it's not up to you if like the person living inside of it is happy.
Right.
If the people walking past, if the people walking past it like think it's a good house, like you I don't know, like that shouldn't disconnect you from your own sense of accomplishment having done the movie, done the TV show. I don't know. My therapist said that to me recently.
That's good advice.
It's very good advice. Very good therapist.
Yeah.
I gauge it by how it feels, because I don't have any read on an audience, so I have no idea how it's going to go. When people like things or they don't, I don't always agree. So even if you do something that people like it, what they like, a lot of times I'm like, well, that was my least favorite moment. But when you're in it, sometimes you know it feels good, and you're like, oh, this is really great right now. And if nobody agrees, I'm like, well, it was still a great Tuesday. I like doing that. That was a great way to spend this morning. I hope they like it, because then I get to keep going. But if they don't, people change so fast, the world changed. I'm like, how do you keep up?
Yeah.
Yeah, with TV, that's the thing too, is that you, with a movie, you can create something, you can sneak into the theater, or you can go to a premiere, and you can see what people's reactions are in real time. And with TV, unless it's in front of a live studio audience, there's zero understanding of what worked for people or what didn't. I mean, the most you get is if someone comes up to you on a plane and tells you the part that they like or whatever. But it is kind of odd. You kind of make this thing and then just like toss it out there. Yeah, and it's you kind of read the tea leaves like if you get an opportunity to do it again, I guess is what it sort of ends up being.
And then the numbers from these streamers are so confusing. So they're like, well, we're excited about the growth from day 17 to 19. All right, I guess.
And they're always like pasted in an email. And you're like, what was the other stuff you cut out of that email? Why is it just this one line?
How bad was it?
These are going to turn into rocking chairs. We sound like so right now, just like, and these streamers. The numbers, they don't share them.
I love it. Danny, I want to go back to you for a second. So Righteous Gemstones is the third in a series where you are portraying a very, very specific type of sort of a white American male. I think you call them fucked up Don Quixotes. I think that's,
yes.
I'm borrowing from you there. Okay, good. What sort of continues to fascinate you about that type of character, and what has sort of changed about what you want to say with them?
I think it just comes down to to the writing of it. I think I'm more attracted to it from a writing standpoint than a performance standpoint, which is just, there's so many stories that are being told, and there's so many, I don't know, there's all these like things that go with a protagonist that I just like sort of taking a story that traditionally the bad guy is centered as the main character. And I just think I think when you write it, it starts to uncover stuff that maybe you wouldn't have found if you were just starting with like somebody who's noble and you're like going through all the steps that they need. I think it's kind of more interesting. And then you use the tricks of what people have grown accustomed to from watching movies and TV. Like they know what all the act breaks should be. They know what, like, oh, this is the part where the main character is down. And when you take somebody who's sort of despicable and then put them through those same paces, I think it becomes confusing for audiences where they're not really sure what they're supposed to feel. And that to me, just, from a writing standpoint, I feel like it's interesting, it's fun. And so we don't really know what the hell the response will be. And so
I'm so glad you do, just to say, like, truly, like, a big fan. And I think everybody at the table kind of does it in comedy, like, takes it seriously, like actually treats it like human. And I can truly say I'm a fan of everyone here, which is a thing. I thought about it for a couple of minutes. I was like, let me make sure before I say it. I didn't say it first round. I was like, let me look. Okay, no, absolutely. Like, truly, no, y'all are great. But you are always like, me and my friend always talk about like how you take these men and you humanize them, and it's the funniest characters in the world because it's always true. Like you always play it so true. I'm glad you make every decision you make.
Thank you. That's awesome.
yeah, it's
Danny's
great.
characters are always people who have contempt for the people around them, but want to be validated by them so badly.
100%.
And that's what's like genius about the show.
For the rest of you, do you see sort of patterns in the types of characters or roles that you choose to play? And do you ever sort of step back and like wonder what that maybe says about you?
I had someone describe people I play on SNL as people who like are media obsessed and like are like want to control their own like media narrative in some way, and that terrified me because I was like, am I like that in real life? Maybe. But that's everybody, right? I don't know. Everybody, like, aren't we all like a little? I don't know. I'm maybe the most narcissistic person at this table.
Don't you say that.
Oh, thanks.
Declaring that you're the most narcissistic.
That's the win.
You got it.
Yeah.
What about the rest of you?
I think probably things that I get sent in for are like, it's not even black guy. It's like that it wasn't a black guy. Now it's just like, it was someone else. And like now it's like, they're thinking, maybe it's a black guy. And like, you know, and like
You get the rewrite.
Yeah, I get the rewrite. I'm the first wave of that. Yeah. Like it's more of that.
His name is Kobe. He's really cool. He's playing lacrosse, but it could be anything.
Yeah. It's all street smart.
Yes.
Do you get, when you get things sent to you, is there a certain type of character that you find you get often, whether or not you actually want to then play said character?
Yeah, a weirdo who's a loser. Who like makes weird life choices. And
what does that say about you?
That I'm a great actor. No, I don't know. The perspective of my characters always comes across as a weirdo, but I don't think those characters are weird. Because I'm not going to play a character unless I can relate to him. And I do like to improvise, and I like to meet with the showrunners and make the character work for me. So I don't want to do something if I can't kind of ride with the character. So in the end, they get a little weirder. That's just what's going to happen.
Michael, I've heard you say, and I'm going to quote you, I think people probably have a different idea of who I am than who I actually am. And I guess the question I have in there is like, who do people think you are, and how important is it for you to try and sort of correct that, or is it actually sort of freeing to have some distance between who you really are and who an audience sort of thinks you are?
Oh no,
big question.
I think it's always fun to keep them guessing because also like who knows who they actually are? Like if you describe yourself and somebody else describes you, it's going to be two different answers. The people who have to deal with you. So a lot of times I may think I'm one way and the audience may see straight through it and I don't even know they see it and I'm like, they don't get it. So my perspective is always going to be I like when we have two different ideas of who we are because we can find out who I actually am a little bit closer toward the end of whatever I'm doing, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And Bowen, with you, I've heard Lorne Michaels say everyone wants Bowen as a voice of, and that's a lot of pressure on him. I'm curious, like, how has that weighed on you and your choices at SNL and also outside of SNL?
I think it weighed on me more in the beginning, especially because there was all this like import sort of placed on these things that I just didn't really occur to me that like it would be important that like an Asian person was on the show because it's this thing that like people tell you are.
Yeah, that's weird, right?
It's weird. Yeah. Like being an SNL is like a uniquely crazy experience for everybody who goes there. There's an individual aspect that's unique about everybody's journey there, and there's also something that like everybody has in common too. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
I'm looking at Will, but yeah, like I feel
it's very hard to answer SNL questions when Will Forte is right there.
Ask
him. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, I feel like my journey like is sort of like kind of converging nicely with like the stream of everyone else's time there, which is like, oh, you kind of you settle into like a liberated place of working where you just kind of don't think about that anymore.
I came in with Fred Armisen, and Fred was immediately able to just enjoy himself on stage, and I just didn't get to that place till like season 5. I don't know how you guys.
And I'm curious, where are you guys
It looks
in your
like
journey?
you guys have so much fun when you're out there. So I
panic still.
I think it ends up once it's. I don't know if it's the amount of time, but it ends up being just the gamut of experience of. I've had the worst shows of my life. I've had really good shows and then the worst shows of my life. Once you've kind of had the gamut of the experiences, then it's kind of like, well, whatever happens, we know we're going to get another show or whatever, and then you can panic in the summertime when it's time to But
It's my favorite Lana Del Rey song, Panic in the Summer.
When you're panicking, panicking about what? What is actually at the sort of root of?
Literally, like, is my face gonna look okay if it's like if I'm locked on like it's like shallow vanity stuff on top of like, can I deliver the joke that someone else wrote for me that like someone like stayed up till 5 a.m. on Tuesday writing? Like it's like a million different things are sort of going through your head so that you kind of
I never would have got like just like you seem so like you have such a great like perform, like it's like this perfect blend of like stage and television. Like you always seem like so spot on.
Thanks, Jerrod. I mean, I would have never guessed Will had that for 5 years.
I was terrified. No, but you guys seem so calm, cool, and collected. Like it's so fun to watch you, and
I'd be drunk. A couple of whiskeys and.
Well, you're right.
And you are calm, cool, and collected. Exactly.
It is very interesting because we never were together on the show, but it really does feel like
there's a common thread.
Like you feel like family. You know?
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of families, I've heard you talk about the impact of MacGruber on your mom. I think you've said. Wait. I think you've said that your mom actually sort of lost friends over the film version. So I'm sort of curious how
hard did this film bomb?
It wasn't that. I don't think.
Friends.
I'm curious how our social circle is handling the TV version.
I mean, when the show came back, like I was already proud of the movie, so I didn't. You know, I guess the way I answered it earlier made it seem like I was seeking validation for the movie. I wasn't. It was for my mom that I was excited because, like, you know, she just goes like, oh, here's my son who, you know, laid this shit on film for the world, and then it like it wasn't even for anything. It's just like nobody went and saw it. So this was just like a smear on the family name, not a financial gain. You know, so like, and she did actually have friends because my mom is the most supportive, wonderful person. She's like, everyone's got to go see my son's movie. No, he's and you know, and I stick a piece of celery in my butt. There's all this horrendous stuff that you know women in their 70s are not super excited to see.
And nobody's in the theater except for your mom's friends.
No, that's it.
That's the worst of it.
No, so it was nice for her.
So the TV version has fared better among her friends?
No. I think she's better about not telling people about things that I did. So.
That's the takeaway.
But it definitely like
just like Will's mom fighting women in the street.
She's
like
that's great.
It's just so great. It's great.
Yeah.
But it raises an interesting sort of question about like the impact that your work has on your loved ones, and like what kinds of heads up do you give? Are you often sort of accurate in how it's going to land with your family? When has it gotten really awkward?
Show business kind of becomes your family because people outside of show business, it's hard to ask them for advice or talk to them or relate to them in any way about show business, right? So like if I have a tough question, I might ask, you know, an older showbiz guy than my dad or
who's on the short list.
I think like Lauren's on the short list. I talk to Dave. I actually talk to Jerrod sometimes about stuff like, you know, just as peers kind of. We're kind of going through a similar thing, just just our careers kind of since we started, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
And so like
They thought we were gonna hate each other.
they thought, yeah, because we was in LA and I was in New York, and it was like, there's another one. Sure, yeah. He's tall and talks slow. I got it. But no, yeah. So I think like sometimes you'll get like like you said, like you'll get like something won't go right or whatever. For me, maybe it's bad press, and my family will react to it like we in a gang war, and I'm like, no, you can't fight people on the internet because they said something crazy about me. Like
Do they try?
That comes with it.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes they'll screenshot like, this is what I said. Like, please don't do that. Like, I told them I'm gonna meet up. I'll meet up. Like when my brother, it's so funny. My brother like texts me when the Chris Rock thing.
Yeah.
He texts me. He's like, yo, if that ever happens to you, I'm going to jail. And I'm like, you can't go to jail for fighting Will Smith.
Yeah.
You can't do that, man. You got to. He's an ex-cop too. It's crazy.
He ready.
Whatever.
Do you call and like warn your family of what is in that Minx premiere? I mean, there's.
No, I don't really talk to the family that much about it. I did have, when I first started, my Uncle Eddie, who's, I kind of based my character off on Minx. The weird moment was, it'd be like a holiday, and then he would have things for me to sign. But at first, it felt really casual, so he'd be like, just, 3 signatures. I'm like, well, Eddie's a fan. And then his girlfriend's taking photos, and I'd be like, wait, hold on. Are you trying to sell these? So I don't have the big family discussions. I love my family. I'm really close to my brother, but we don't talk about, I'm not looking for their opinions. So I don't want to hear, like when you were talking about The Bomb, the funny thing about doing a lot of indies, because I like indies, is like my old man would go to all the movies in Chicago and getting the call being like, it's a good movie, but nobody was there. And being like, it's okay. He's like, it was just me and my girlfriend. And be like, in the whole theater, he's like, no one was there. It was 8 p.m. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man.
Thanks.
Don't go. Don't call me. The $14 is not coming back to me. Just wait, man.
God bless streaming. I don't know what else how anything did. Perfect.
I don't want to hear it was an empty theater. It's fine. I liked it, man.
Yeah, it was fine, man.
Fine.
Jerrod, I've heard you say that your skill set as a comedian, and again, I'm going to quote you here so as not to mess anything up. I'm not afraid, and I have a pocket full of matches. I think you said this relatively recently.
I think I was drinking with Michael.
Pocket full of matches.
That sounds like tattoo ideas.
Nosy pass to a banker.
I got a pocket full.
Is this your first time?
Where does that
They're
come
loose
from?
matches too. I'm sorry.
No. I guess where does it come from? And also, really, never, ever afraid?
Well, no, it's not being afraid. It really is just, a friend of mine said it, having access to fearlessness in moments, right? And for a reason and for a project and for whatever you're making. So, I'm scared all the time. I'm always scared, but it's seeing what that is. Usually I'm attracted to that and usually trying to make something out of it. So, film, TV, stand-up, all these things, all these arts are built around our emotional turmoil. They can be at least. So I don't know, if I have something that I'm afraid of, it's fun to run toward that and then make something.
Does anyone in your life ever sort of try and hold you back?
If I had someone in my life to hold me, I wouldn't be throwing matches at everybody all the time, probably. Yeah, I probably would be no one's holding, and then my art would just be about them, probably. I don't know, I'm just looking for interesting things, I kind of try and mine interesting things.
As a performer anyway, just it being such an unnatural thing, you're facing the crowd's facing you, you have a microphone, they don't, or whatever it is. It's already such an unnatural leap to try it. So what you're afraid of, what most people are afraid of, you're already doing anyway.
Right.
What you're afraid of, they may not even understand.
I want to say what I mean by that, in that fear, before stand-up was me versus audience, right? And I was it was a contentious relationship. I was arguing with them and trying to prove something and like talking around anything but myself. Like that's, I think, what my work really, really was. What I mean by matches is what I was saying earlier about like consequence. Like I think people can feel that. People can, I think when you look at art, you can see time and consequence, right? Like it's like Beyonce's dedication to precision, or Evel Knievel risking death going over buses or whatever, right? And like that's the value of it to me. What's that?
Say Johnny Knoxville.
Pardon me, let me update my reference. It's like, I think people can see that and they can sense that, and they can, I think like audiences can smell fear. Like, and so, yeah.
That's such a good point, because I think like, to me, that was like the thing to learn about, especially like in a live setting, was that the audience will go with you. They just want to know they're in the hands of a professional. And they don't mind even if you bomb or even if they don't like it. They just want to know you know what you're doing. And that gives you more, once you kind of understand those unwritten laws of performance, then it becomes a little bit less dangerous. You know, then the danger becomes the thing that you have that you want to say that you're not going to say. That's what it becomes. But I've never like, because I feel like there's a lot of like, especially in stand-up, like there's a lot of guys who kind of pride themselves on being willing to say all of the words and nobody wants to. And you're like, yeah, you're just an asshole. That's easy. You've been saying that for your whole life. That's not scary. What's scary is talk about the real thing that you don't want anybody to know.
But also the value of that is diminishing. Like you have to
100%.
But you have to be aware of art in the time that you're making it, in the context, right? And if you're doing stand-up, it's just like, just know how much of your job has been like outsourced by the internet.
Sure.
I've seen somebody lip sync my joke and get more views than that. How'd that happen?
So Michael, it's interesting with you though. You often sort of make these jokes about sort of like, oh, is this the line? And oh, this is going to be the thing that gets me canceled. With a sense of like that's not actually your fear. But then I watched your most recent season of that Damn Michael Che, where you really sort of explore this idea of like what it could feel like to be canceled. And it made me sort of wonder, like, well, wait, is that actually something that he ever sort of thinks about and fears? Like, why was that something you wanted to explore?
Well, you always think about, I mean, you run the gamut of every single emotion. I think the one kind of lie that we kind of tell ourselves is that we don't feel that. We feel everything. You feel the fear, you feel the confidence, you feel the anger, you feel the humor, and all of that shit is like, you run the gamut, it's just one outweighs the other probably. So, I do think one of the cool things that comedy can do, or, joke telling can do, and writing can do, is that you can explore what it feels like in every single avenue and just see it. Like we're all, that kind of connection. When people watch it, they understand, yeah, I get that, I get that. It's like.
But that's not real. The cancellation, the boogeyman doesn't exist. And I feel like we got to get over that now. Like, I feel like we're on the other side of that conversation. Like, if you do something wrong in your personal life, you should go to jail. Like jail, like actual jail, like police and lawyers and judges that take you away. And then like everything else is like, what are we talking about? Like if you make art and it causes some contention or causes some whatever, I mean, that's part of it. But I don't think the cancellation thing, I think that's just something to give like boring people something interesting to talk about, like a ghost or like a ghost villain.
It's like when kids say like, oh, I got all these haters. You're like, nobody knows you.
Nobody hates you. Nobody cares.
Hates you. You're fine.
I also want to say I only unbuttoned this because you look real sexy with the pop the thing, and I was like, I didn't know we were doing that.
Yeah, we're doing
It's funny to say that right after you say cancel culture doesn't exist. Sexually assault this guy.
That's what you're talking about.
No. Hey, if you look like me, you take what you get. If I hear sexy, I'm taking it. Thank you.
So what are you talking about? Sex God Jake? What are you talking about?
I like your shirt too. I think you look very sexy.
Thank you. It's emulative of hip hop I grew up on.
That's true. Yeah. It is kind of a very bad boys.
Yeah, of course.
I love it. Jake, you've talked about a sort of period earlier in your career where you sort of felt like, and I think I'm borrowing a expression you use, you sort of got hoodwinked by Hollywood. in a way, in that like you sort of had this realization like the business isn't necessarily as fun as I hoped it would be. And I'm curious sort of what was that feeling, and then how did you get to sort of the place you are now in terms of how you decide what you're going to do and what you want from it?
These are big questions.
They are. They are. I'm going
We were
deep.
just doing a different kind of thing.
No. We're going there.
Well, it's different because
Chalkboard.
I was like, whoa. I was like 9 answers for Minx. I was going to go to those and then do some bets. Well, it was different because I grew up watching TV and I loved it. So I wanted to be in TV. And when things weren't going the way I wanted it to go, I'd watch Cheers and go like, I want to be in that. And I want to live in that feeling. That's what I want. And then when I got out here, I was like, oh, it's a job. Like it's a thing. There's like, it doesn't always feel the way it is to watch. And so my big turn for, I started off doing commercials and improv and just grinding. And you're doing tons of stuff that doesn't feel good. It's not good. You don't like it. And then you get the check and you're happy. So I'm like, well, I need money. I don't want to do construction. So I'm doing this for money, but it's my dream. Yeah. You don't do your dream for money. You do your dream because it's your dream.
Yeah.
So along the way, what I was able to do is I saved my money. So I was able to go, well, I'm just back to doing it for the dream. So it's got to, that's what I was saying about audiences. If it doesn't feel good, I don't care if everyone likes it. But if you're in it and everybody, you're like, oh, this is great. I hope they like it. It's so much more fun to be at a table like this with you guys as opposed to being like, nobody likes it. But like, I'm doing it for me. This is a selfish business.
And what was the thing when you got Minx where you said like, okay, this I think is going to actually bring me...
Yeah, so it was the characters. So I grew up with guys like Doug Renetti. Those were my uncles. That was my dad. And I loved them. So my dad wasn't around when I was growing up, so I saw all these bigger than life, wild characters. My mother had junk shops growing up, so I was always selling stuff and delivering with random homeless guys, and their stories were so funny and they were so great. And then all the parts I was getting was like, not quite getting the girl. And I was like, those are great too. I'm happy to do them. But when I saw Doug for the first time, because I don't like to audition, because if you audition, you have no leverage. You're fighting to be at the party. Well, then if I go, I'm fighting to get there, I've got some changes. They're like, well, we didn't invite you to this party. So I'm like,
you should have thought about those changes 3 tapes ago.
You can't fight and then go, here's what I'm not feeling. So when I saw Doug, I thought, oh shit, like finally this is a character who I know. I love these guys.
Danny, a few years ago, you picked up and you moved to Charleston, I think, with your whole sort of band of comedy brothers. And I'm curious of how your perspective has shifted as a storyteller, having now being in the place where your characters exist, as opposed to being in the place where the people who hire you to write about those characters.
Yeah, you know what I think it did? I think it hit, I have young kids, and this job takes so much out of you, and so I felt like I was getting to that zone where I needed some perspective on this thing. I needed perspective of like, how much time am I going to be around for these kids? How much time am I going to be dedicating to this? And I think it was like stressing me out and making me sort of just get too much, I was like thinking about work too much. I'd drive down the road and look at a billboard for something, and it was kind of like, oh God, I need to be working harder. I need to do more. And, I think once I moved there, it just reminded me how cool our job is, that it is something that it's just like, and I like hanging around with all these soccer dads that have nothing to do with the entertainment industry, and they're just like, oh, you met anybody famous? Like, people. But what I think it put for me in context, it just reminded me that, what we're doing is just like, it's seasoning, it's enhancing people's lives. It isn't what it's all about. It isn't the end all be all. Like, I like when the best kind of feedback I feel like I could get from anything I'm working on is just when you hear that, like, oh yeah, I had a really shitty week at work and I came home and watched your show and like laughed my ass off with my wife, or, I just feel like it puts it in perspective, and it just kind of at a point where I feel like I needed to reassess how I was approaching things. It happened like just at the right time where it just kind of grounded things, yeah.
I love that. When people approach you guys, see you on the street, like what is the thing they often say to you?
Is Colin racist?
No, I just write them that way.
How's Pete?
Yeah.
How's Pete?
Do you want to do some blow? That happens at the kids' soccer games a lot.
That's awkward. Yeah.
I get Prince. I did a scene in New Girl with Prince. And Prince has a huge reach. I mean, obviously, I love his music, but it's, somebody will come up and then the one person in the group always goes like, what was he like?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm like,
What was Prince like?
yeah, it's like, what is Prince like? So I'm like,
How do you answer that?
Yeah, what was he like?
he was really weird. He had a whole group of people. They were all wearing purple. They walked in a single file line.
Nice.
They got to the place we were going. They all like stood in a room. He was announced where they're like, Prince is coming to set. And everybody got tight where you're like, oh. Then they all walk out. He wanted to exclusively. He was talking to Zooey Deschanel and he goes like, I was like right where Danny is. You guys are here. I'm like waiting for the moment where I say hi too. And he goes like, I'm ready to meet Nick now. And so that was my character's name. So Zoe was like, this is Nick. And I'm like, great. And then once
Nick.
once we did the scene, he was a genuinely good actor.
That's great.
And then he didn't get up. So they were like relighting, which is about 45 minutes. And if Prince doesn't get up, I'm not getting up.
No.
But then we like started talking about like the Vikings. So the turn was, I was like, thanks so much for being here. I'm a big, he's like, yeah. And then I asked about the sketch. I'm like, is that true? And he was like, kinda. And then I was like, so you're a big Vikings guy? And he was. And then I talked to the NFC North, and it was normal. And I was like, oh, he's just the best.
I love it. You at the beginning referenced this idea that there's a lot of nudity.
Yes.
Yes.
In the early part of the season.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It really matures.
There's also obviously in Minx, you see, I'll just say it, like you see a lot of penises. Yeah. Men's bodies are usually not sort of used for titillation. It's used for punchlines. That arguably is changing. But like, I am genuinely curious, sort of, are you comfortable? Like, do you ever get self-conscious? Are you ever like, why did I write this in?
Yeah, sure. Oh, sure. I mean, but I don't know if it's the right. It's just if it makes sense for the story and seems like it's fun,
Is there an intimacy coordinator on MacGruber?
For the first time, we had somebody and they were great.
And what does that look? I mean, for you, how has that changed? Are you more comfortable, less comfortable? Does it not have any impact at all?
I'm not concerned about my own stuff, but I definitely, want to be respectful of everybody
others.
on the set. And you realize like, oh, it doesn't just matter if it's like, oh, I don't care about it. So it's like, it's making sure that everybody around you is comfortable. And I think it's a very positive step, obviously. And it's great to be on a set where everybody's respecting everybody else. Yeah.
It's also nice when it's somebody else's responsibility. Like I like an intimacy coordinator because if something goes south, it's their fault. So like, I don't want it to be if I'm. But it's their job.
Yeah.
So like, on our show, there's a lot of nudity and I'll be around a bunch of naked people. And if you're spending a 12-hour day, you start doing bits.
Yep.
And then if there's like somebody you're getting along with well, you start doing jokes and you get a little slap happy and I'm about to go to a zone that like could be real. Like I thought we were buds.
Right.
And, I'm really not thinking about what I'm saying. I'm goofing around, man. And then you'd have somebody walk by and be like, I would.
That's
and you're like,
that's that.
Thanks. Like, yeah, like if I didn't want to offend. I'm just doing a bit. We're not even filming. I don't want to like offend somebody and have this. I'm like, I'm glad you're here.
I like the intimacy coordinator there for sure because it's weird to tell someone like, I just want to see the tip of your dick in the shot, and that person can help translate that. You don't have to find the verbiage for it.
He just wants to see the tip of your dick in the shot.
Can we get that shot?
That seems fair. For all of you, who sort of has the career, who is someone who has a career that you look at and you say like, wow, would love that. Like that seems fantastic.
I got to work with Goodman on Gemstones. I mean, when you kind of like go through his career, it's just like pretty awesome. I mean, he's done so much. Yeah, I look at all the choices he's made through the years. It's just like he's like an assassin who's just been lining up one cool thing after the next and just keeps moving. He's great.
I've always err on the side of like anybody that like just tours comedy for the full year and they pick projects that they just like doing or whatever, to me is like the fun career because it's just the opposite of what I get to do like at SNL. So like that, you know what I mean? Like just somebody that's like, oh, I'm gonna take 8 months and figure out a set. I'm like, what? How are you doing? Like that to me, like that's like always nobody in particular, but that kind of thing is kind of cool to me.
I like anyone specific. I like anyone whose career isn't just a disparate pool of bullshit. Just like, and I'm in 6 things. It's like, okay.
I was very busy.
Yeah, I was busy. Like, busy. Yeah, we all enjoyed your busy. Yeah.
I was just thinking about this. I was thinking about Nick Offerman, who's does all these awesome things, and then I was talking the other day about his wood shop, and he just makes these incredible pieces of furniture out of old reclaimed wood, and it's just to go like, God, I wish I was.
Every Nick Offerman story I hear, I go, oh, he's really that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's actually that. Oh, okay. Oh, cool.
I feel like that reminds me that I don't take advantage of the time that I have. It's like I think I'm getting better. I just had a baby, and so.
Can we show the socks?
Oh yeah.
This is an opportunity.
My lucky socks.
Oh my God.
Sorry, had to.
But it just, it's I'm trying to teach myself to not just do crossword puzzles all day, and she's kind of forced me out of that. But I look to, different role models like Nick.
What about you, Bowen?
For some reason, I'm thinking of Keenan just because I don't think I'll stay there for as long as he has, but I think watching him and his sense of boundaries is very cool. Like I want to get to that place someday where he has the boundaries very clearly set, but also is like warm and generous and welcoming and inviting to people at the same time.
It's an interesting question. You brought up this idea of like, I don't know how long I will stay. You've talked, I think, in the past about that sort of transition after SNL, and it's a challenging one. And I guess I'm curious, do you feel like there's stuff you wish you would have known going into it that perhaps would be helpful for 2 guys at a table that one day will make a decision?
Well, I mean, the main thing is there's nothing like it. First year that I left, it was basically, I think everybody else was still there. So it was tough to look at and go, why did I chose to leave this place and I miss it tremendously. And you're like, what am I, it's very tough. Just, it'll be very weird when you eventually do decide to go, but it's also exciting afterwards. It's just new stuff that becomes your life. And I left there not knowing if I'd ever get a job again. Like so it's every single thing since then that I've gotten to do is like this unexpected blessing, so you start. For me, SNL, that was what I wanted to do when I started, so, I got to do that. Now I didn't really have dreams after that, so it's like, all right, I did that. Now,
It brings up a good question. So what is the sort of dream gig, the like, I can retire now, thing for all of you? Is it like getting the call about a Marvel movie? Is it getting a late night show? Is it like, what are the things that like really are sort of at the end
Jesus,
of...
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You said those 2 things, and is that all there is? Started playing in my head.
Oh
like,
my
Jesus
God.
Christ! Like that's what we're waiting for. Like Marvel. Jesus.
For some people, that is the goal, right?
I don't know. I'd like to be Batman.
You'd like to be
I'd be the laziest Batman in the fucking world.
the Batmans have recently been too much of a go-getter. I think that would
Michael's
Lazy Batman.
Batmobile would be an Uber Plus.
I'll be the first Batman that makes a noise when he gets out of the Batmobile. Where is he at? This car's too low. No, I think a lot of it is just like kind of time, and the choices are always seem to be the further you go along, that's kind of what you're looking for. Do I have time to do shit that I really want to do? And do I have kind of the choices that I really, the power to make the choices that I really want to make? And then a lot of times it's being able to help people that you really believe in. Like, is there a place for my friends that I think are dope that should get these opportunities? Like, it's more of what you can do, not necessarily a job. So if there's a job that can kind of give you that time or give you that freedom or give you that power, that's kind of what I think I look for more so than an actual, bucket list title.
Well, I kind of think during the pandemic when everything shut down and I wasn't sure if our business was coming back, it was kind of similar to what you were saying, Danny, about like rethinking it. I realized that I just want to keep working. Like there's no retirement. I don't golf. I don't know what I would do at like 65. I hope it's really good projects. Might be one a year. But like I just don't want the thing to end. I think there's a moment we all get kicked off this ride. And I just want to stretch mine as long as I can because it's a fun business.
I have a number.
Yeah.
What is
What's your number?
I'll keep it to myself, but
well,
that's
you
my
have a
dream.
number.
I have a number, and
Really? You'll never
Is it like
perform
a young,
again?
like,
Bill Withers.
He's a liar.
I don't know.
You have a number? You're a
I
liar.
have a number.
I gotta hear what this number.
No,
Unless
we'll
it's
talk
like,
about it
I feel
later.
like 3 billion. I'm like,
No,
fuck off.
it's not a Kevin
number.
Hart number. It's just like it's a number.
Kanye's worth like $8 billion. He's still making beats and sweaters. There's no number.
Because otherwise it wouldn't be. I mean, to what you were saying, like it wouldn't be like a job thing. I don't think there is that anymore. Too. Like and a lot of the things like don't mean what they meant. Like we can project a lot of stuff onto it, but like media changes, so it's like you kind of just have to like find what makes you happy, and what makes me happy is money. Hold hard cash. Cheers.
Also, being gay is expensive.
Being gay is the most expensive.
Yeah.
That sweater's not cheap. That's not a sweet cheap. That's a gorgeous sweater.
The sweater? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Being
didn't buy
gay
it.
is expensive.
It is.
the last one I'm going to end on is when it comes to sort of opportunities and potential collaborators, like whose incoming call would make you all sort of lose your shit?
Hey, Will Smith called me now.
That would be so exciting. That would be so
What
exciting.
does one say
How's your
now?
wife? I hope she's good.
That would be very exciting. I would love to hear the Michael Will combo.
Yeah, me too.
I'm excited for you.
I geek out just at it's like at SNL, it's like a revolving door of people you just wanted to work with forever, and you grew up like. It's just crazy, you know what I mean?
Who are the ones who get really excited?
I think when Murphy came, that was probably the most excited I'd ever been.
Yep.
But, and I'm not just saying this because Forte is here, but like the cast that I love, when you guys come back, it always means something. When Wig's back, you're back with Andy, or like guys like that. Like it's like people that I grew up watching, even like Sandler came back and shit like that is when it's really cool. But and then it just becomes a show. Then you just have to let your heroes down with a poorly written sketch, and you're like, whatever.
If I'm being honest, mine is David Geffen. And I love to say it's because he's a role model, but it's mostly because I want to get on his boat.
I get it. He's a nice guy.
I've been saying it. I said it at Dress at SNL. I have to say it in a Hollywood media setting to put it out there because we've been trying to set meetings and we can't get through to him. And I want on the boat. I want the boat.
I get it. I love that. We're going to
And if I've
manifest it
learned
there.
anything from a Tiffany Haddish press tour, you got to put your intentions out there.
That's great.
Maybe Walt Disney. Maybe. It'd be so crazy.
It'd be real crazy. Real crazy.
Just a FaceTime from that frozen head.
Welcome. Come enjoy your time with us.
That's good.
One time I did get a phone call from Kanye West, and he this is real. He came to my house in South Carolina and wanted me to play him in a movie.
What?
Yeah.
You to play him?
Yeah, he came
What
flew
happened?
to South Carolina. I took him on a boat today,
insane.
and he said that he wanted to do a movie of his life, and he wanted me to play him.
In like an I'm Not There Bob Dylan way? Like Kate Blanchett
Maybe.
It was
Wow.
probably
What are the
one of the most
follow-up-
incredible days ever.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome.
Wow.
What are the follow-up questions that you then lob?
Well,
you know.
I mean, there's
There's
one follow-up question.
Where do I sign?
Like, on a scale of 1 to Tropic Thunder, how much am I playing? It actually makes sense, though.
It makes all the sense in the
It
world.
makes sense. You're
makes all the
probably the only person that could
Yeah.
that could embody that confidence.
makes a lot
Like
of
you
sense.
actually, yeah, of course.
Kanye's kind of like one of those like the sitcom characters that's like learning karate 1 week and then the next episode builds a robot. You know,
Black Kramer.
yeah, it's kind of like just all these new tasks that they got. In the best way. Like that would be. I'm like very excited about that. Please follow up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to
try and top that.
play the guy who filmed Kanye when he died. I'll roll with
Cootie,
it.
you
I'll
wanna
be
be
the
Cootie?
camera. I'll have my arc in there too about my kids. That's what I want to play.
You.
I don't have anybody. Whatever. I can't beat Kanye.
You can't be Kanye. You can't be Kanye. On that, thank you guys all for being here. This was so much fun. I hope we get to see your Kanye movie. We will all go see it. Thank you.